Okay, let's get started. So what we looked at in the last few classes is these two important serviceability requirements. One is deflection, another is crack width. Crack width, we just noted how to take care of it by adjusting or by making sure the spacing between the reinforcement and the minimum area of steel and other aspects which we will be discussing at a later stage. So that is all related to detailing and some issues related to design. So if you take care of it, crack width will be taken care. And if you want to exactly measure the crack width, what is the procedure that is given in Annexure F of IS 456, and that's what we are going to look at in today's class. And please note that this procedure which is given in Annexure F of IS 456, it is these whatever equations that are given, they are all more empirical in nature. Okay, so it's not like a deflection. Even in deflection calculations, which we use some of the equations that are given in Annexure C. Some of those are empirical equations. Anyway, deflection we can take care of it by adjusting the span to effective depth ratio to make sure that that is within the Codal limits, or you can calculate exact value of deflection following Annexure C procedure, and then trying to compare with Codal limits of span divided by 250 or span divided by 350, depending on the time, the point of time at which you are looking at. Okay, so let's get started with discussing Annexure Annexure F. Please open this Annexure F. Calculation of crack width, and let's read it. And before that, let me show you here. Please note that even for deflection calculation, whatever we have this I effective, it's an empirical relation. Okay, it's an empirical relation, and even the other things, even all these equations like deflection due to shrinkage, ACS. This equation is empirical in nature, in the sense this K3 is like a factor which depends on support conditions and other things. So mostly whatever equations or expressions you are going to see in code books, they're all based on either some experimental results or minimum experimental results, and then some experience. So most of the relations are going to be empirical in nature. Okay, except this kind of, you can see here, shrinkage curvature. What is curvature? What is curvature? It is nothing but slope of the strain, how it is varying. Okay, curvature gives you an idea about it. So here you can see here, this shrinkage curvature is equal to K for some factor which is empirical in nature, and you can see here strain divided by overall depth. So this, at least this portion is like it is exact relation to the curvature. Okay, curvature is nothing but derivative of strain or slope of the strain. So that is what, and this is the empirical coefficient. Okay, so that is how you will see many equations which are empirical in nature in the code books. And now coming to Annexure F. Annexure F crack width calculation. So the relations that you are going to see in this are mostly empirical in nature, and a good discussion on this is given in Professor Devdas Menon's book. You can go and go through that. But in that book, some additional information is given. But I feel that as far as the course is concerned, since it's a basic course, if you understand how to make use of the procedure that is given in Annexure F, that is enough. So let's go through this procedure. And somebody is comfortable or understood this and want more discussion about this, they can go and refer Devadas Menon's book or some other reference books which I have given in the syllabus sheet. Okay, so let's read this. Provided that the strain in the tension reinforcement is limited to 0.8 Fy divided by Es. So whatever procedure that is given is valid only if the strain in the tension reinforcement is limited to or less than 0.8 Fy divided by Es. What is this 0.8 Fy divided by Es? You need to go back to your stress strain curve for steel, or we can go to SP16, okay? And we have already noted all this here. We just see this one here. What is 0.8 Fy? 0.8 Fy is the point till which is going to be, the behavior is going to be elastic. Stress is going to be like, you know, proportional to strain, or you are going to be within the elastic region of the curve. And if you unload it, you are going to come back to the original curve or same point. Okay. So here, look at this stress when it is 0.8 Fy. Inelastic strain is nil. Inelastic strain is nil. So that's why there in crack width calculation, strain is limited, or strain is should be less than 0.8 Fy is the stress, divided by modulus of elasticity is going to be strain. So that is the reason it is mentioned here, provided that the strain in the tension reinforcement is limited to 0.8 Fy divided by Es. The design crack width should not exceed the appropriate value given, means the crack width calculations are given, or it is, we'll see what is that code prescribed crack width, okay? And so you can calculate exact value of, this based on this procedure, you can calculate crack width, what is its value, and compare with the codal value, okay? So provided that the strain in the tension reinforcement is limited to 0.8 Fy divided by Es, the design surface crack width should not exceed the appropriate value given in this clause of code, and may be calculated from the following equation. So design surface crack width is calculated using this as per IS 456, okay? It is actually taken from British standards, and more as I mentioned, somebody is interested on the discussion about this equation, they can refer Devadas Menon's book. Okay, so this is the width. WCR is nothing but crack width, and rest of the quantities they are all given here. Let's go through each of this. Okay, ACR, and first of all, the crack width. Please note that. Let me show you a figure, then you will understand. So take a note of this figure. This is a general beam, or it's a flange section is shown here, just to make the section to be more general. And if your section is rectangular section, then these flanges are not going to be there. So this is a flanged section. Okay, that is what is shown here. And H is the overall depth. Small h is the overall depth. Please note that these notations, these whatever symbols that are used, they are in line with whatever is given in annexure F of IS 456. So please take a note of this figure in your notebook. Even though it is there in the slide, better when you once you note down, you will get a better feel for it. H is the overall depth of the section, and D is the effective depth. You can see here D is from the extreme fiber in compression to the center CG of the reinforcement. Okay, center of gravity of the reinforcement, and this X is the neutral axis depth. Letter small x is what is used in annexure F of IS 456 denote the neutral axis depth. So same notation is used here. X is the neutral axis depth, and if X is the neutral axis depth, then the distance to the centroid, or say CG of the reinforcement, is D minus X. Okay, And please note that this is what is called the soffit of the beam. Okay, and assuming here beam is assumed to be undergoing sagging moment. Usually, when the beam is undergoing sagging, tension is going to the extreme bottom fiber is going to be in tension. So the crack is going to be formed on the tension side. Okay. So here that is what, and if it is beam is undergoing hogging moment, you need to just reverse it. So crack is going to be formed on the top surface. Okay. So here we are referring the soffit of the beam, the bottom of the beam, the distance from the neutral axis to the bottom of the beam. Once this is neutral axis done, this is going to be h minus x. Okay. And the reinforcement, it is shown for generality, it is shown as two layers. Okay. The spacing between the reinforcement is S, and midpoint is, with respect to midpoint, the distances are shown here, S divided by 2, and why the midpoint is shown usually, or this crack width is going to be maximum between the rebars. Between the rebars, it's going to be maximum. So that is the point of interest. That is where we are our point where we are going to actually calculate this this crack width, whatever formula that is given in NXRF. Okay, and this the distance of the reinforcement, reinforcement to the point of interest on the surface. That is what this ACR. We'll see in more detail about this ACR, what it is once we go and read the description. And C minimum is nothing but cover thickness to the reinforcement, and BT is nothing but the width of the web section. Okay, and here the strain diagram is shown here. Epsilon C is this extreme fiber strain in concrete, and this is the strain in steel is Fs divided by Es. You please take a note of it. And what is this EM, and what is this epsilon M, what is this epsilon 1? We'll see what these are, and also what this equation is. We'll see in a while. So please take a note of this section, and also the strain diagram, because whatever annexure F in IS 456, the equations that are given, they make sense with this kind of figure. So you please take a note of this. Please take a note of this. Please note that for crack width calculations, usually we are going to pick a point which is middle of the rebars. Okay, so the distance of the point of interest is this one. This is where we are going to actually calculate crack width. So the distance of this point, which is going to be midpoint between the rebars, to the nearest longitudinal rebar, that is ACR. So if C minimum is the cover thickness, spacing between the rebars is S. So then you can easily find what is this ACR. Complete this triangle. Complete this triangle, and this distance is S divided by 2, and this is C minimum, and this is so then this side is going to be square root of S divided by 2 square whole square plus C minimum square. Okay. And what is this epsilon m, epsilon 1, we'll see in a while. Okay. So let's make a note of this. And crack width, so that is what is written here. ACR, ACR is nothing but, you can see here what it is. The distance from the point considered to the surface of the nearest longitudinal bar. Please note that one more thing, you have to be very clear. The beam is going out of the plane of this, whatever is projected here, out of this plane. Beam is coming out of this plane. So, and this we are actually looking at one of the section, or at one location, or along one of the sections along the length of the beam. At that location, if I take a point midway between the bars, what is going to be the crack width at that location? Crack width is going to be the maximum between the rebars, at a point which is between the rebars, or mostly midway between the rebars, or at the corner. Either the crack width is going to be maximum at the corner or midway between the rebars. Is it clear? So now ACR, I explained to you how to get it, and the crack width equation, which is given in annexure F of IS 456. Let me just, let's go to IS 456. That is what is actually reproduced there on this slide. This is what code is giving, which is empirical in nature. So crack width, surface crack width WCR is given by 3 divided by ACR. Just now we discussed how to calculate ACR. Epsilon m. Epsilon m is average steel strain at the level considered. Average steel strain at the level considered. Just to make a note of it, we'll see how to calculate that. That is what is given here. That is what is given in the other equation. How to calculate this epsilon m, that is what is given. And C minimum is already we discussed what is this. And H is the overall depth of the member, X is the neutral axis depth. So everything in this equation, once you noted down that figure, whatever is given, shown as a flanged section, if you had noted it, so everything is clear to you except this, what is this epsilon m, how to calculate. So that's what we are going to discuss. Let's go through the code. The average, here it's mentioned epsilon m as average steel strain at the level considered. What is the level we are considering? We are considering the soffit of the beam. We are considering the bottom of the beam. At that level, what is the average strain, the steel strain? That is what we need to calculate. The average steel strain, epsilon m, may be calculated on the basis of following assumption. These assumptions are whatever we already made similar assumptions in somewhere else earlier. Same thing here. The concrete and the steel are both considered to be fully elastic in compression, or in tension and in compression. That is one of the assumptions. The elastic modulus of steel may be taken as 200 kilonewton per mm square. That is what we are using. And the modulus of the elastic modulus of concrete is derived from the equation given in this clause 6.2.3.1, which is nothing but 5000 root FCK. And modulus of elasticity of concrete is assumed to be same both in compression and tension. So these are the assumptions. So the average steel strain is calculated on the basis of these assumptions. Okay. Anyway, here that is what is meant, or more general figure is what I showed you on this slide, but code is also giving you a figure. A cracked section overall depth is H, AS is the area of steel, okay, and there is a small mistake here, and this should be FC divided by EC. It should be FC divided by EC, and this is a strain diagram. And then this is stress diagram, and something is written here. We'll see what this is in a while. Any question on this diagram? Actually, a more general figure is what I have shown you in the beginning, a flanged section. Okay. So now let's see. Anyway, we already noted this. X is the depth from the compression phase to the neutral axis. FC is the maximum compressive stress in concrete. Fs is the tensile stress in the reinforcement. And ES is the modulus of elasticity of reinforcement. Okay. So now let's understand how to calculate this epsilon m. Alternatively, an approximation, it will normally be satisfactory to calculate the steel stress on the basis of cracked section, and then reduce this by an amount equal to the tensile force generated by a triangular distribution having a value of 0 at the neutral axis and a value at the centroid of the tension steel of 1 Newton per mm square, instantaneously reducing to 0.55 Newton per mm square in long term, acting over tension zone divided by the steel area. So what actually it means is, first thing is you can read this formula, then it will be clear for you what this is. Okay, this epsilon m, average tension, steel strain, whatever average steel strain, that is what is mentioned. Epsilon m is given by epsilon 1 minus some quantity. What is this some quantity? We'll discuss in a while. And then what is this epsilon m? Let's understand that first. And epsilon 1, strain at the level considered. Strain at the level considered, calculated ignoring the stiffening of concrete in the tension zone. Okay. So now let's see this one. Let's see this figure. So this epsilon 1 is the strain at the level considered. What is the strain at what is epsilon 1? Epsilon 1, how do we get epsilon 1? If the stress in steel is Fs, strain in steel is going to be Fs divided by Es. Okay, and that is the strain at a distance d minus x. And where is this point? Where is this point? Our point of interest is on the surface. So the distance of the surface from the neutral axis is h minus x. So epsilon 1, please make a note on your paper. Epsilon 1 can be written as Fs divided by Es, that is the strain at the CG of the reinforcement, multiplied by d minus x divided by, multiplied by h minus x divided by d minus x. Is it clear? Epsilon 1 is Fs divided by Es multiplied by h minus x divided by d minus x. Okay, basically what we did is, whatever strain at the level of steel, we interpolated, we linearly interpolated to the surface. That is what basically we did by doing that. But please note that concrete is also going to carry some tension. Okay, it depends on the tensile strength of concrete. So that is what is this tension stiffening. Here, what is mentioned here? Strain at the level considered, calculated, ignoring the stiffening of the concrete in the tension zone. That is what is called tension stiffening of concrete. So whatever we just used interpolation and calculated, we ignored that. But we have to actually take that. We have to take that into consideration, and then apply appropriate correction, and then that is what this epsilon m is. Epsilon m is the strain, average steel strain at the level considered. Whatever epsilon 1 we calculated is strain at the surface without taking into consideration what is this correction, tension stiffening correction. So that correction is this term. That correction is this minus. So epsilon 1 minus that here, stiffening of the concrete in the tension zone. So if you apply that correction, that is what this is. And how this is obtained. Please note that this is an empirical in relation. How this is obtained, we are going to discuss. So that is what this equation. What is that correction? What is that correction is? That is what is given here. Okay. So let's assume tensile strength of concrete tensile strength. FC is strength corresponding to concrete. TS is tensile strength. So concrete tensile strength, let's assume concrete tensile strength is CTS. Okay, FCTS, and the stress. This is the stress in the concrete, which is varying triangularly, over the depth, over the cracked portion. Whatever concrete is there, that is it's varying from 0 here to the maximum value here. Okay, and average value is going to be FCTS divided by 2 is going to be the average tensile strength of concrete. And what is the cracked portion of concrete? What is the area of that? B is the width of B. BT is for a general section. BT, the symbol is used. But if it is a rectangular section, B is the width considered. And please note that here B, whatever B you are considering, that should be at the CG. Whatever width of the section at the centroid of the reinforcement, that B you need to use. Please note that here the section is shown as a rectangular section. But whatever formula or whatever equations that are given in annexure F, they are valid for any cross section. Okay, any shape of cross section. So B is the width of the section at the level of centroid of the reinforcement. So now you can see here FCTS divided by 2 is the average tensile stress in concrete multiplied by B is the width of the section, multiplied by H minus X is going to give you area. So this stress multiplied by area, average stress multiplied by area is going to give you force, and force divided by, please note that this entire force due to this concrete, we are going to assume it to act at the level of the steel. So this force divided by area of steel, that is going to give you stress divided by Young's modulus of steel is going to give you strain. That is going to be the strain at the level of this, at the level of CG of the steel, and then that we need to interpolate or extrapolate to the surface. How do you extrapolate to the surface? Yeah, here, please note that here in the code book, they say A is used. A is used. A is nothing but H minus X divided by D minus X. So we are actually, whatever this, because of tension stiffening of the concrete, whatever strain we are calculating at the CG of the reinforcement, that we are actually extrapolating or interpolating to the surface. So that is what this is. This small a is same as H. Please take a note of this. Small a is same as H. Okay. So that is what this correction. So this is exact. This is what exactly if you want to derive it. But instead of by 2 here, and what we are doing is FCTS divided by 2. What code is saying is, you read this one. To calculate steel stress on the basis of cracked section, sorry, not this one. So we need to calculate the steel stress on the basis of cracked section, that is what this epsilon 1, and then reduce this by an amount equal to tensile force generated by triangular distributions having a value of 0 at the neutral axis and a value at the centroid of the tension reinforcement of steel 1 Newton per mm square instantaneously. That is like, you assume your FCTS to be varying in this manner. So that is what here in the figure it is mentioned. Stress in concrete at the level of tension steel. Take it as 1 Newton per mm square for instantaneous case, that is nothing but short term, and 0.55 Newton per mm square in long term. So assume the stress distribution to be linearly varying, that is nothing but triangular distribution. Okay, and whatever formula just now we looked, that is exact, but code based on some empirical or some experience, some experts have recommended this. So use it at the centroid of the tension steel, you take it as 1 Newton per mm square for short term, and for long term you take it as 0.5 Newton per mm square. Okay, so this is what based on some experts' opinion, this is what is recommended. But finally, this is all synthesized. And that is, then this correction is given. You please take a note of this correction. This term, second term alone, you please take a note of it. There is a reason why I am asking you to take a note of this one. Please take a note of that second part of the equation, this one. As per whatever I have shown you in this slide, epsilon 2 is equal to FCTS divided by 2 times B multiplied by H minus X multiplied by or divided by ES multiplied by AS multiplied by A minus X, D minus X is there. But if you see the correction that is given here, that FCTS divided by 2 is replaced with 1/3. Okay, so this whatever is given here, that whatever mentioned for short term, long term, all that put together, code is giving you for a rectangular tension zone. Take it in this manner. And what is this 3? What is this 3? 3 has an units. This 3, number 3 there has an units of, it is 1 divided by 3. 1 divided by 3 has a units of FCTS divided by 2. So 1 divided by 3 has same units as Newton per mm square. Or 3 has a units of 3 is inverse of Newton per mm square, inverse of stress. Whatever units of stress, inverse of that are going to be the units for this 3. So this is what the empirical, whatever I'm telling, you cannot, maybe theoretically you can get some equation, but taking practical experience and other thing into consideration, that equation is going to be slightly modified in the code. Okay, so this correction has to be applied to this epsilon 1, then you are going to get epsilon m, and that epsilon m you need to substitute here to calculate the crack width. So let's take an example, then it will be clear to you. If you have more questions, we'll discuss at that stage. Okay, so let's take an example. This one, please take a note of this. Simply supported beam, spanning over 8 meters, rectangular section, width is 300, overall depth is 600, and beam is reinforced with 4 bars of 25 mm diameter on tension side at an effective depth of 550, and 2 nominal hanger bars of 12 mm diameter are provided on the compression side. Please note that crack width is going to be calculated on the tension side, okay? Because it's simply supported. And beam is subjected to a load or a moment of 140 kilonewton meter at the center of the span. Grade of concrete is given, grade of steel is given, and you are asked to check the serviceability limits. Serviceability limits in the sense you need to calculate deflection. First of all, deflection control using empirical method. You need to check whether L by D is within the code prescribed limits or not for simply supported beam, and also exactly calculate the deflection using the theoretical method and check whether that is within the limit of span divided by 250. And also you need to calculate for the cracking, or you need to calculate maximum crack width. So please take a note of this problem. These first two points we already discussed in the last class. Based on that, you can actually complete that and take the, we'll look in detail the last point. Basically, how to make use of the 2 equations that are given in annex area for IS 456. Please take a note of this. So whatever small a is there from the description that is given here, let's make out whatever quantities that we require. Small a is the distance from the extreme fiber in compression to the point where we are interested to calculate the crack width. Crack width we want to calculate on the bottom surface, so that's going to be same as this overall depth d. Okay, and small d is going to be this one, 550 Newton per mm square, 550 mm. Small d is 550 mm, and span of the beam is 8 meters. Anyway, span we are not going to consider for deflection, crack width calculation. Okay, and you need to calculate neutral axis depth before you calculate the crack width. You need to calculate neutral axis depth. How do you calculate neutral axis depth? By equating moment of area in compression to moment of area in tension. Based on that, you calculate neutral axis depth. Once you get neutral axis depth, you can calculate what is d minus x. X is going to be your, taking x as neutral axis depth, d minus x, and you have noted the equations h minus x or a minus x, all that is required. Okay, and you please see crack width calculations involves modulus of velocity of steel, that you need to take it as per whatever annexure F that is given, that value 200 kilonewton per mm square or 200 GPa. Okay, so let's see that. And here spacing, here 4 bars of 25 mm diameter are given. 4 bars of 25 mm diameter. What is the width of the section? 4 bars of 25 mm diameter. Width is 300. Okay, and so how do you disperse this 4 bars of 25 mm diameter in one line, in not in 2 rows but in 1 row? How do you disperse this 4 bars of 25 mm diameter? 4 bars means you need to have 3 equal spaces. Okay, 3 equal spaces, and that is here they are dispersed in this manner. You can try the other way also, assuming the spacing of the tension steel at 60 mm center to center. If you have 60 mm center to center, the rebars, what is the width over which rebars are going to occupy? 3 times 60, 180. 180 is going to be the distance between the center of the extreme 2 bars, and remaining is going to be your the diameter of the bar is 25 mm. So if you want to have a clear cover of at least some 40 mm or 45 mm, the rest is going to be your cover. Okay, just think about it. Okay, here it is taken as 60 mm center to center, so S is taken as 60 mm, and cover thickness is, please note that this cover thickness is to the this 50, whatever 50 cover is to the center of the rebar. Clear cover is minus half the diameter of the bar, 25 mm. So half the diameter of the bar is 12.5 mm. And then ACR is calculated using that the 2 sides of the triangle. Please cross check whether these numerical values are correct or not. Okay, and crack width will be maximum at the soffit of the beam or the bottom surface. And here some notation A prime, or it is same as A in the code. A is taken as H, which is going to be the overall depth, and epsilon 1 I already told you to make a note of it. I orally mentioned what is epsilon 1. And for calculating epsilon 1, you need to know what is the stress in steel. To calculate stress in steel, you need to know what is cracked moment of inertia. Here, cracked moment of inertia, how it is calculated, all that I am not showing. It is already there. Okay, by this time you must be knowing how to calculate it. And then you cross check whether this Fs is correct or not. So once you get stress at the level of steel and strains, epsilon 1 is strain at this point you are considering on the surface. So strain at that level is given by this. Okay, and this is actually without considering tension stiffening. This is without considering tension stiffening of concrete. So we need to apply correction. So that correction is given in the code. I actually explained to you the exact formula, and also code is giving some empirical relation. FCTS divided by 2, it is approximating as 1 divided by 3. Based on that, you are going to get this correction factor. This second part of the equation is nothing but your correction for tension stiffening of concrete, and you need to subtract that from the whatever you calculated, epsilon 1, that is going to give you epsilon m. And using that, please note that strain, so there are no units here. So once you get epsilon m, you calculate crack width. Please use consistent units, otherwise your this final value is not going to make sense. Okay, so crack width is coming out as 0.104 mm. And what is the code specified crack width? What is the code specified crack width? It's given in this clause of code, or also it is given in your SP24. SP24 is saying here, the code recommends a limiting crack width of 0.004 times the nominal cover nearest to the main reinforcement, which leads that's it. You just read up to this, okay? And if your cover turns out to be 25 mm, it turns out this value, the code recommended limiting crack width is 0.1 mm. What is our cover here? What is our cover? Our nominal cover is 50 mm. Okay, so 0.004 times 50, or sorry, here C minimum, sorry, C minimum. Okay, clear cover. Clear cover is 50 minus 12.5 mm, so that is 37.5 mm. So as per the code, whatever max the crack width shall not exceed this value, and whatever crack width we got is this one, so it is within the limit, so it satisfies the crack width criteria. Okay, any questions? Professor Amlan, you want to add something here? Please note that here this entire procedure is more empirical in nature. Okay, Professor Amlan, you want to add something before we close the class?
Yeah, the limits. Yeah, the limits of the crack widths, I think, are now different in this present code. It says that if the condition is not severe, if the exposure condition is not severe, then it can be 0.3 mm, like for an interior condition. If there are chances of corrosion, then it should be reduced to 0.2. And for severe cases, it is 0.1 mm. I think this limit should be kept in mind when you are calculating the crack width.
So let's open and see that before we close. Just 1 second. Here, that is whatever Professor Amlan mentioned, all that is given here. Okay. Surface width of crack should not in general exceed 0.3 mm in members where cracking is not harmful. You can read this, okay? Finally, whatever crack width you are calculating, you compare with this.
The question may come that if we are exceeding the crack width, then what to do? See, the solution is that you should have smaller size bars which are well distributed. That is important. See, in crack width, to limit crack width, you cannot have two large size bars widely spaced. Then the concrete in between will crack more. Hence, we should have smaller size bars closely spaced so that in between the crack width is limited. And that is the specification given for detailing in IS 456 in clause 26.3. Okay.
Okay, and so we have covered almost everything related to working stress method. I covered working stress method because that is what is required for calculating the deflections as well as crack width. And from next class, we are going to see limit state method. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, regarding the evaluation pattern, can you explain how much weight is given?
Please note that this evaluation pattern here, this time, we are under some separate special conditions. So actually Dean mentioned that the evaluation pattern is we should limit the internal or this assignments and other things, we should limit it to 20%. And once you come, because this is a core course for BTech, once you come to the campus, they are going to conduct a written exam, or I don't know, they may be conducting some written exam through external agency, where we will be setting question paper. We are not clear about all that. So that external examination, Dean mentioned it should be 80%. Okay. So this 20-80% is actually slightly different from what you have experienced or earlier, but because of this kind of situation we are in.
Sir, for different core courses, initially they told that similar this 20 and 80%, sir. But later they contacted academic section and they changed their evaluation pattern and they reduced 80% to 40%, sir. Some of our core courses in the same semester.
Okay, okay. Please note that we have not once class committee meeting is over, then we will be very clear. If other core courses are following this, since you brought to my notice, and we will also propose to have same kind of thing. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.